Hey, what's up? I'm Channel Pup Fanboy Supervillain, and welcome back to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie retrospective. Previously, we talked about Sonic the Hedgehog 1, which released in 2020, a film that was doomed to fail, but through humility and determination managed to claw its way into being a sincere family film that mostly does right by Sonic the Hedgehog despite being really timid about it. But they pulled it off where it counts well enough to justify a sequel. And that sequel is what we're going to be talking all about today. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you love Sonic the Hedgehog, this is the place to be. And if you want to support my channel further, the link to the Patreon page is in the description below. All support is super appreciated. Thank you very much. Looking at the post-credits of Sonic 1 as well as the marketing of Sonic 2, it was clear that this new movie was shaping up the Sonic universe just that little bit more with the additions of Tails and Knuckles. We were also getting a much more faithful depiction of Dr. Robotnik and the injection of some more Sonic lore with the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald. Sonic was also clearly gaining a little more independence this time as he'd spend the majority of this film apart from his human counterpart Tom Wachowski. The story of Sonic the Hedgehog 2's production is nowhere near as interesting as that of Sonic 1. Sonic 1 was clearly a big learning experience for all involved with a lot of hard knocks, and in its trailers and posters it was clear that this film was embracing more of that Sonic mythology with a larger-than-life adventure. Colleen O'Shaughnessy was cast as Tails for Sonic 2. Now what's interesting here is that Colleen was originally brought in to voice Tails in Sonic 1 as kind of a placeholder, with fans speculating that Paramount would be searching for a Hollywood A-lister to take over the role for Tails' big film debut. And with the internet and its infinite wealth of imagination, yeah, the general consensus was that Tom Holland would be asked to play Tails. But something unprecedented happened. Thanks to positive response from the fans to Colleen's appearance at the end of Sonic 1, she was kept on and has been a mainstay in the Sonic movie franchise ever since. And that makes me feel so happy. She must be on top of the world, being the one game voice actor from the Sonic franchise to make it into these movies. And she definitely holds her own among Hollywood A-listers. If anything, she's probably the most qualified for a voice acting role anyway. After all, that's where her roots are, and voice acting and physical acting are two different things. But Paramount still got their A-lister with Idris Elba as Knuckles the Echidna, which I must admit was incredibly exciting. I will always be in support of Hollywood films choosing new names that the general public might not have heard of and bringing them to stardom over just getting A-listers who may well be less qualified to play voice roles than actual devoted voice actors. But Idris Elba as Knuckles was such an exciting idea. Immediately, I could see the vision. Idris Elba carries himself with such a formidable confidence that is just going to be perfect for Knuckles. It just depends how well that translates into a voice performance. But I'm also going to get really political here for a second. For a character with Rastafarian flag shoes, dreadlocks, and the exaggerated swagger of a red echidna, it is surprising how long it took for this obviously black-coded character to be voiced by a black actor. Heck, Sonic really beat Knuckles to the punch on that one with Jaleel White back in the 90s. Does it make much difference when it's a voice performance? Well, it's not for me to say, but it is just a fascinating bit of identity politics that I figured I'd drop in my 2 cents for. Now, in lieu of behind-the-scenes drama, I figured this would be a fun opportunity to discuss the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 prequel comic, get it, published by IDW. IDW artwork alumni Adam Bryce Thomas, Evan Stanley, and Tracy Yardley bringing these stories to life in a fashion that's every bit as pretty as you'd expect from IDW Sonic and late-era Archie, but now in the style of the movies, which is cool to see. I can say with confidence that movie Sonic had a smooth transition to 2D. The first story in this little anthology is Hedgehog Day Afternoon. Tom and Wade are on a fishing trip in Walla Walla. This is one of the rare instances of Tom and Wade being portrayed as friends rather than just co-workers. We also get our final appearance of Crazy Carl here, as he and Sonic bicker over Sonic's new moniker, Blue Justice. Bored of staying hidden, when Sonic hears of a bank heist in Walla Walla, he heads over to the scene of the crime. The bank robbers, Lindsay and Jason, are using salvaged and altered Robotnik tech to rob the bank, working for a mysterious client called The Buyer. More on him later. In the retrospective, not in this video. But the Robotnik drones still under the control of Agent Stone turn on Lindsay and Jason, and Sonic defeats them both. The day is saved, Sonic heads home, taking us over to our next story. This one focused on Agent Stone, as he carries out Dr. Robotnik's manifesto. laying low and taking over the Mean Bean as the new base of Robotnik operations. This is a shorter story, purely explaining why Agent Stone works at the Mean Bean and how Robotnik established his new base of operations. The third story is Always Bet on Red, this time featuring Knuckles the Echidna. He's kidnapped while searching the lava reef for the Master Emerald and taken to the Casino Night Zone, where Knuckles is pitted against a giant two-headed crab in a gladiator match. Realizing his captor's resourcefulness, he recruits their help to find the Master Emerald. Now already, I'm really enjoying the world building of this book. We're seeing some of the other worlds the first film didn't explore, some familiar zones, and we've even got a cameo of the Chaotix, meaning that, while they're only included in this comic, a movieverse version of the Chaotix is out there. I'd say it's inevitable we'll meet them at some stage, and I wonder if they'll reference this. The next story is Two for the Road, which follows Tails on his search for Sonic as he explores Mobius. And we see him trekking through different areas on Sonic's home planet, including Sonic's home of the Green Hill Zone. He then heads over to what is obviously the Marble Zone, where he's met with a new enemy, Rava the Destroyer, who shares a design with the unused lizard enemy from Sonic 1. So there you have it. That's what that little tease in the previous retrospective episode was for. Satisfied? Tails continues on his quest to Springyard Zone, that's a cute little Sonic Heroes reference by the way, then Aquatic Ruin and Hilltop Zone in search of his hedgy hero, before realizing that Sonic is now on Earth, and that Knuckles is on his tails. And that leads us into our final story, Mushroom with a View. This one focusing on Robotnik surviving the Mushroom Planet as he battles live mushrooms. So the prequel comic is about as substantial as the IDW annuals, but it does effectively slot everything into place for Sonic 2. It's a bit of supplementary material that answers any questions extra curious fans may have, such as, who the hell were these dudes at the start of Sonic 2? Yet the fact that Knuckles' captors from this comic literally appear in Sonic 2 without any other context from the film itself is wild. The relationship between this comic and the film itself is pretty strong, meaning that yes, the Chaotix are absolutely canon. I wonder if this buyer character that Lindsay speaks of will ever amount to anything. Spoiler alert, he does, but he doesn't.
The answer is yes and no.
The prequel comic is by no means essential reading, but it does enrich the universe of the Sonic movies, delivering from some familiar locations from the classic games, which I would have loved to have seen in the movies themselves, and just showing us a little bit more of what this universe is like. The only ones that really narratively have much going on are Always Bet on Red and Robotnik's Manifesto. And I guess in hindsight, Hedgehog Day Afternoon does set up some things for the future of this universe, but again, it's nothing essential. I just wanted to cover this prequel comic though, because it's just cool to me that the IDW art team got to be involved in a Sonic movie project. And they did a great job. This was definitely one geared up towards die-hard fans, so it won't have been as in the public eye as the movies themselves. But it does quite a lot of legwork in filling out this Sonic universe with familiar locales from the games, and I really appreciate it for that. Anyway, Sonic 2 the movie, let's go. Yeah, it's better than the first one. So I mentioned before that in doing the big movie franchise with sequels, we're building off of a fairly challenging foundation here. Sonic 1 was not a film that was confident in the Sonic IP, it was a by-the-numbers family comedy that paid some homage to Sonic along the way, and was just sincere enough to work. But now you're in a situation where Sonic is an alien on Earth, interacting with a human world, and any of the Sonic the Hedgehog cast of anthropomorphic scrimblows, that sounds like a school, will have to work a little hard to justify themselves within that grounded human world. So for Sonic 2, aliens are effectively converging on Earth in search of Sonic. Knuckles setting out to destroy Sonic and claim the Master Emerald in a quest for retribution for his fallen Echidna tribe, and Tails jumping in to protect Sonic and the universe from Knuckles' deadly conquest. So I quickly want to talk about the new additions to the cast. Colleen O'Shaughnessy expectedly does an excellent job as Tails. She's been in this role for quite some time now. You know what to expect. She's not gonna do a bad job. But there is definitely different voice direction this time to what it is in the games. She does have a different take for movie Tails to what she does with game Tails, and it works really well. In her performance, I think Tails' intelligence is a little more understated, and she focuses more on him as this playful fox cub who really looks up to Sonic. And I am pleased to see them leaning more into that direction for Tails. He's still a genius, but it's a little more on the down low. Idris Elba as Knuckles seems to have discovered a new accent.
Do I look like I need your power?
I don't know what this accent is, but I dig it. I mean, he's an alien, of course he's gonna have a different accent, right? But you can definitely hear him kind of drifting in and out of sounding British from time to time. His performance as Knuckles is not like any Knuckles performance I've really ever heard before. He doesn't sound like Dan Green or Travis Willingham or any of the voices that have played Knuckles in the past. Idris Elba's Knuckles is much more a noble warrior, and he's permanently in that mode. He says everything with absolute conviction at all times. He does a great job with that more stoic and introspective side to Knuckles. So yeah, Idris Elba absolutely paid off. There's a couple of line reads that sound a little iffy here and there.
I will shatter them like the bones from a fallen. I've been training for this my entire life. Soon, Longclaw's emerald secrets would be ours.
But I really enjoy Idris Elba as Knuckles. So while on his search for the Master Emerald, Knuckles finds Dr. Robotnik on the Mushroom Planet, recognizing the blue quill Robotnik has been using to power his distress beacon. So a deal is made. Robotnik helps Knuckles to find Sonic, and Knuckles helps Robotnik get home to enact his revenge. However, Robotnik chooses to keep Knuckles around for just a little longer, as he shares interest in Knuckles' quest for the Master Emerald and the power it possesses. So he tricks Knuckles into thinking that he's his new friend. Meanwhile, Tails is searching for Sonic to prevent our vengeance-driven Echidna from getting his mitts on the ultimate power. It's a race across the world between duos Sonic and Tails, and Robotnik and Knuckles to uncover the location of the Master Emerald. Oh, and there's a wedding in there too. Fun. Okay, so what we've got here is your typical Sonic storyline. Dr. Robotnik teams up with a powerful ally with hopes of conquering the world, and it's up to Sonic and Tails to prevent him from doing just that. It's a quintessentially classic Sonic storyline, and effectively a loose adaptation of Sonic 3 and Knuckles back on the Sega Mega Drive. Pair that with the coming-of-age story of a kid Sonic growing into the hero he's destined to be, while paying off elements of Sonic's origin story with Longclaw in the first movie, and you've got a nice, rich story to enjoy here. Sonic was raised by the Owls, Knuckles a child of the Echidna tribe. Sonic and Knuckles are effectively children of war who have lost people near and dear to them because of a conflict between their tribes. But we've got Knuckles who abides by a strict code of honor instilled by his ancestors, juxtaposed with the free-spirited Sonic who is still trying to figure out his purpose in the universe. Sonic discovering his independence is a big part of this film. He travels to Seattle to thwart a bomb threat under the Blue Justice moniker, and does a very bad job of it, because he's searching for trouble purely out of boredom rather than taking responsibility for others around him. He's looking for an excuse to use his powers rather than thinking about how his powers can actually benefit people. So he needs to kind of mature as time goes by and grow into the hero that he's destined to become. Before Robotnik arrives after Tom and Maddie leave for Rachel's Hawaii wedding, Sonic throws a party for just himself and Ozzy. This Hedgehog is just bored. He's desperate to find his moment to shine, but he's not really emotionally mature enough to understand the responsibility that comes with that, as he's told by Tom on a fishing trip. Sonic initially rejecting Tom's words. We're kind of a Spider-Man thing going on here, huh? With Robotnik's return and Knuckles' conquest, Sonic finally has his calling, and despite Tails' reservations, he brings Tails along for the ride. So while the story is a fairly basic race against time, the nuances are in the characters. Tails plays directly into the theme of responsibility. He is the one that Sonic becomes responsible for, and it backfires when Tails is knocked out by Dr. Robotnik in Siberia. Sonic realizes he put Tails' life in danger because he got too cocky for his own good. All of this is great. I thoroughly enjoy the dynamic of the loyal no-nonsense Echidna and the callous, highly deceitful Doctor. Dr. Robotnik and Agent Stone are two scientific and strategically minded geniuses, while Knuckles is fairly simple-minded and primitive, leading to fun shenanigans between this odd couple. Dr. Robotnik really indulges his insincerity towards Knuckles and takes great pleasure in telling the Echidna that he's been had. My heart genuinely breaks for Knuckles when he tells Robotnik,
I trusted you! You were my friend!
He clearly has no comprehension of Robotnik's lack of honor, and he genuinely trusted him. Sonic and Tails, on the other hand, are genuine ride or die. We see how well these boys work together when they're threatened in Siberia. No, I don't actually mind the Uptown Funk scene at all. It's well shot, well lit, their dance competitor having a tattoo of himself on his chest is genuinely funny, and Uptown Funk is a big tune, admit it. Seeing them work on the fly and succeed together was just a lot of fun, and the scene that follows where Tails confides in Sonic about his past is absolutely adorable. It may have been a very quick and fairly low common denominator way of displaying that Sonic and Tails are better together, but I really enjoyed everything at this Siberian bar. The hostile-looking locals, Sonic and Tails looking like South Park characters, the gross-looking food dishes and Tails' translator not working correctly. I just had a lot of fun with this. But my favorite part of all of this is the moment where Sonic places a blanket over Tails and lays down next to him, but Tails' tails spring out acting as a blanket for Sonic. What a great way to convey the sincerity and the friendship between these two. How they have each other's backs, even in their sleep. There is nothing wrong with Sonic media getting a little cute from time to time, and this is just adorable. I've heard people say that Tails was kinda unnecessary in this movie, and I completely disagree. I do not understand that criticism. He is the one that Sonic needs to take responsibility for. He is the essence of Sonic's heroism. He sees Sonic as the person that Sonic wants to be, and he's the one that Sonic ends up failing. And yeah, even if he doesn't get as much screen time as Knuckles, why shouldn't he be here? You mean to tell me the film would be better without Tails? Get out of here, no! I reject that and I can feel myself getting defensive, so I'm just gonna move on. So much for the level-headed fanboy, am I right? So all of this sounds pretty much perfect, right? Well, in a lot of ways, yeah, it's exactly what I wanted from a Sonic movie. Sonic and Tails exploring the ice caps and temples, racing against Knuckles and Dr. Robotnik, character dynamics really well handled, but there are weak links. Real quick, once again, the humor is pretty obnoxious in this film. Marginally better than the first film in this department, but still just a lot of referencing other IPs for no real reason. Wade comparing Egg Robotnik to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man when, like, Megazord references are right there, dude. Sonic comparing the Owls and Echidnas to Vin Diesel and The Rock, and worst of all, Sonic calling Knuckles the Winter Soldier for absolutely no reason at all. I mean, why? Because there's snow? Is this not just every season for Siberia? What is it? Like, Knuckles doesn't have a metal arm or anything. This is more just an awful pun than anything else. And speaking of puns, when Rachel sees the avalanche and says, "Snow my god," the delete button is on your keyboard for a reason, writers. The humor just reeks of insecurity. Like, the film is constantly trying to tether itself to other popular movies, and you could say this is for the kids, but then why Ghostbusters references and not, I don't know, Fred Figglehorn or whatever kids are watching these days? Who is this for? The funniest moments are when the film isn't reminding you that the Fast and the Furious exists, such as Sonic waking up next to a Siberian woman on the floor, or Wade asking Tails if Longclaw is his dad. But here's the real weak link with this movie. While splitting Sonic off from the human cast worked out wonderfully for Sonic and Tails, the human cast struggled to find a place in this story and feel like an obligation. Scenes with Tom and Maddie interacting with Sonic are fine. As always, Agent Stone is a welcome addition to our antagonist cast, and I don't really count Dr. Robotnik as part of the human cast, because human cast is more just a label I stick on like the OC characters for these movies. But once we're focusing on just that human cast separate from Sonic characters, it's a lot harder to really invest in them, as they now don't really have much to do with the characters that we're actually here to see. It's made worse by the fact that as far as the human characters go, Rachel is probably the one who gets the most to do, and her story has absolutely nothing to do with Sonic. It would be one thing if we were spending this time focusing on Tom. At the end of the day, we've gotten to know him by this point, and understand why he matters to Sonic. Rachel, on the other hand, I don't think she ever really interacted with Sonic. So Tom and Maddie are off at a wedding. That's a way of getting them out of the adventure so we can focus on Sonic and Tails. Fair enough. But the wedding ends up being the focus of the film at the midway point. After Tails is incapacitated, Sonic calls for help from Tom. There's a really clever mix-up between the wedding rings and the portal rings, and I'll applaud the writers for that. That was really clever. But once Sonic arrives in Hawaii with his unconscious fox friend, he's immediately captured by Commander Walters, aka Olive Garden guy, and it's revealed that the wedding is a sham orchestrated by the newly formed gun. So, Sonic, Tails, and Tom are shoved aside so we can see Rachel and Maddie break into gun security to rescue Sonic and Tails. Now, this isn't awful. We've got Maddie using Tails' various different gadgets and essentially committing murder and manslaughter, which is something this film has a really weird relationship with. I can only assume the people are really durable in this universe, and that everyone knows that, as Sonic effectively bombs a garbage man, a sewer. Maddie and Rachel send a guy several stories into the air, only for him to fall back down again somehow alive. Like, you go to jail for this stuff in the real world. And look, here's the thing. Maddie and Rachel infiltrating Gun's lockup in the hotel isn't terrible. There's even a really funny gag where the priest reveals a gun in his Bible here, but it just goes on and on. Rachel now wants to take vengeance on Randall for catfishing her, and he falls in love with her because of her tenacity, and there's a lot of yelling, and we're all just at a complete standstill. Who are these people? For approximately 10 minutes slap bang in the middle of the film, the quest for the Master Emerald is effectively irrelevant as we watch this very loud, obnoxious sitcom about a fake wedding orchestrated by a military organization play out. And look, Rachel has every reason to be yelling her heart out. You get him, Queen. But damn it, I don't want to hear it. I just wanted to see Fast Hedgehog the movie. And the other problem is the majority of this stuff I don't find funny. It's just not my kind of humor. Just very, very wet. Soggy, even. I would describe this humor as soggy. In complete fairness, though, as far as needle drops go, Barracuda, big tune. Also, I don't know if any of this makes sense. So, Gun want to capture Sonic, so their strategy is to orchestrate a fake wedding for someone who kind of knows Sonic through osmosis. Where Tom and Maddie are going, and I guess they're just hoping Sonic will rock up. I mean, they're right, but that is not a good plan. A true belief is not always a justified assessment. Gun, what are you doing? Speaking of being a little holy in the story department, this film definitely forgets that Sonic has super speed sometimes. But I mean, hey, he's a dumb kid, maybe he just doesn't think to use it every time. Fortunately, once Maddie frees Sonic, we're back in the game. Knuckles and Robotnik uncover the labyrinth zone where the Master Emerald lives, and Sonic gives chase. This is fucking awesome. We've got Sonic running on the ocean, battling it out with the elements. We've got Sonic, Knuckles, and Robotnik running through a live-action version of the Labyrinth Zone from Sonic 1, full of ridiculous traps. We've got an incredible fight scene between Sonic and Knuckles while Robotnik steals the Emerald. This is all gold, and it continues on strongly. We've got Sonic and Knuckles rescuing each other from the collapsing labyrinth after Robotnik steals the Emerald, reconciling on a nearby island, which I'm just going to pretend is a Sonic level because fuck it, why not? Tropical islands are kinda his thing. You got Tails stealing a plane to rescue Sonic and Knuckles. That sly little fuck! And chase down Dr. Robotnik. All great. So this movie does something brand new that we've never seen before. We see Dr. Robotnik use the Master Emerald to gain a super form. That's right, before Super Sonic, we have Super Robotnik, with the powers of telekinesis and auto-tune.
My game is next level.
And he uses this power to cannibalize all the military vehicles and some trains into his new Goliath, the Egg Robotnik, which marks the first giant Eggman robot we get to see in these movies, as he wreaks havoc on Green Hills. So Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles team up to take him down. Tails busting into the giant mech to distract Robotnik, while Knuckles punches the Emerald out of him.
This is how I roll.
Ugh, that crunching sound. How crispy is his synovial fluid? Sonic, exhausted and defeated, tries to get the Emerald while Robotnik powers up his robot for Phase 2. The Wachowskis rescue Sonic from getting crushed, but when the Emerald falls apart in Sonic's hands, the trio accept their fate as a family. Robotnik, thinking he's won, doesn't realize that Sonic just absorbed the power of the Chaos Emeralds as he turns supersonic and destroys Dr. Robotnik's mech with him inside it, rendering him plummeting towards his death. Yeah, this isn't IDW Sonic, this guy's a killer. Like, everyone in this movie genuinely believes that Robotnik is dead, therefore they genuinely believe that Sonic fucking killed him. I'm also a bit confused by the geography of this scene. Sonic, Tom, and Maddie are all huddled together when the Death Egg robot thing stamps them, so Tom and Maddie should definitely be dead. But then we see that Super Sonic is holding up the big robot foot hoof thing, and now Tom and Maddie are like a sudden distance apart. Did like the emeralds cause like a teleport or something? I'm confused by that. Oh no, the movie's ruined. I don't understand the logistics of this moment. By the end of the film, Sonic accepts Tom as his dad. Knuckles and Tails stay on Earth with Sonic and the Wachowskis, creating a new order to protect the Master Emerald and with it the galaxy, before we're treated to a mid-credits tease of Gun uncovering Project Shadow. Shadow not saying a line of dialogue so that they can secure whoever they want for that next movie, I guess. Very exciting, though. I can't wait to see how this all turns out. I have to pretend I didn't just see the movie at the premiere a few days ago. Sonic 2 is not perfect. The attempts at humor often detract from some otherwise great character writing, and there's a big wedding cake-shaped blemish slap bang in the middle of this otherwise very entertaining adventure. I'll also go right ahead and say that omitting Angel Island from this story was a missed opportunity. Angel Island as a concept would lend so well to a movie, and while I'm happy to see a live-action Labyrinth, again, a missed opportunity is a missed opportunity. A floating island with a unique ecosystem and a carnival for some reason would just be really cool to see on the big screen. Apparently the writers wanted to include Angel Island, but it just wasn't possible due to the budget. They also wanted to have the quest take place over numerous planets, but again, budget didn't allow for that. The Siberia cabin scene was originally going to be populated by animals, including the skeleton of Big the Cat. Again, these movies were a reflection of where the franchise was at the time, as Big the Cat was still a joke back then rather than being the salt of the earth that even Shadow will smile for that he is today. But Sonic 2 has a lot going for it. Separating the humans from the Sonic characters means we spend a lot of this film as just a pure meat and two-veg Sonic adventure that really evokes vibes of a classic Sonic game. There's a vibrancy here that just wasn't present the first time around. It's more sure-footed than its predecessor, the action far more confident, and I have to hand it to Jeff Fowler. The man has a unique voice as a director. From fun decisions like the severed fish head telling Sonic and Tails to run at the Siberian Lodge, feeling like something straight out of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, to just how visceral the battle between Sonic and Knuckles at the Labyrinth Zone is. This film is full of fun directorial decisions. I love how the animation changed to almost Snyder-coded splash page illustration style animation for the origin story of the Chaos Emeralds. The final battle is really substantial and wonderfully paced as we really explore Green Hills and get to see this little town absolutely pulverized by a really imposing reimagining of the Death Egg robot. Or, if we're gonna get extra nerdy, perhaps the giant Eggman Robo from Sonic 3, given its ability to shoot flames out of its nose and Master Emerald power. The film also no longer relies on the tried and tested bullet time formula most synonymous with Quicksilver, instead opting for more fast-paced kinetic action sequences, and it really pays off. It's funny that in the first film, Sonic was a weakling who couldn't throw a punch, yet here, he holds his own against the fighting freak Knuckles. Tails and Knuckles are done justice here, especially Knuckles, who finally gets to be the main event after decades of Sega being unsure what to do with the poor guy. At this point in time, Knuckles was commonly portrayed as a total blockhead, but this movie really restored his dignity, and fortunately the games have followed suit since. Knuckles is back, and we owe it to this movie. And Tails is no sneeze either. The last we'd really seen of Tails was him cowering in fear at the sight of Chaos Zero, yet here he's jumping into battle against Robotnik's giant mech, and it's just great to see. And Robotnik here is a little more authentic, a bit more goofy than he was in Sonic 1, utilizing more of Jim Carrey's talent. In terms of the music, sadly there's no improvement from the first film. Tom Holkenborg is once again wasted as a predominantly electronic composer on orchestral white noise with minimal references to the games. There was one instance where it sounded like the soundtrack was getting interesting during the Sonic v Knuckles fight, but it turns out that that's a cue pulled from Ant-Man and the Wasp for some reason. What a weird thing to say out loud. In fact, you know what? There's less references to the games in the music than there was in the first film. Green Hill Zone is a ringtone, and the only piece of music from the games to make its way into the score is the Drowning theme, and it's so faint that it may as well not even be there. What a waste of so many golden opportunities! But Stars in the Sky is a great ending track, and the sprite animation that accompanies the credits is beautifully done. It cannot be understated just how much of a step up Sonic 2 is from Sonic 1. Just populating this world with more Sonic mythology has gone a long way. I'd like it to go further though. I don't think these movies should have to slowly trickle their main cast in and have to work overtime to justify them. It would be great to explore more of these planets and worlds and less of the residential homes of Green Hills, Montana. And that's the unfortunate thing. Sonic 2 is still bound to this live-action grounded world, so they unfortunately still have to be a little more sparing than I'd like with the iconography. I really do wish we could have seen Angel Island and the Death Egg. I wish Amy could have been a part of the team. I wish we didn't have to waste time on this stupid wedding subplot. And sure, you can say, it's for the general audience, but I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry, but patooey to your whole thing. We don't interrupt Toy Story to bring a story about non-Toy Story characters so the adults can get something out of the experience. You gotta have faith in these characters and their ability to resonate with people beyond children and fans. There's a reason why so many adults love Sonic and why so many people remain fans over the decades. There's clearly more faith in the IP this time, but between the unnecessary wedding subplot and the need to constantly name drop other movies, there's still just not enough confidence on display here. But remember, I attributed the timid approach the first movie took to the state of the Sonic franchise at the time, and, well, the only thing that really changed for Sonic between the release of the first and second films was, well, the success of the first film. This was running off of the positive response to the first film alone, pretty much, rather than building off of the popularity of the games. Kinda weird that no new Sonic games released between movies, but bear in mind, we did have a whole ass pandemic. Okay, there was Colors Ultimate, but like, that's a re-release, and also, fuck Colors Ultimate? But real quick, I just want to do something that's gonna piss everyone off. I'm gonna compare Sonic 2 to a film it's probably not entirely fair to compare it to. The Super Mario Bros. Movie released the next year, and it's clear to see that Mario took a different approach. It doesn't have the same constraints as the Sonic movies have, and it's not a reimagining of Mario, it's just Mario. With that, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is a lot more authentic to the games that it's based on. You don't have to wait several sequels for the introduction of Toad or Peach, Bowser doesn't have to earn his classic look. It's more along the lines of what I'd like to see from Sonic, but hear me out a sec. That movie really has nothing to actually say about Mario. You get the same experience out of watching that movie as you would from playing a Mario game, just minus the interactivity. Once you take that off the big screen and put it on a TV, you end up with an experience that is less than the games it's based on. While with Sonic 2, this movie is doing what the game it's based on couldn't. I am referring strictly to Sonic 3 and Knuckles here, a game that had to use real ingenuity within limitations to tell its story. This movie leans into why Sonic and Knuckles are adversaries, and the dynamic between Dr. Robotnik and the gullible Echidna. Through these movies, we get to understand a little more of what makes these characters tick when they're not running incredibly fast. But Sonic 2 still delivers on that action. At this point, these films have found a purpose in the bigger picture of the Sonic franchise, and I think that's why this movie was so well received. It does a much better job finding that balance between being a compelling family film and doing right by the IP. I think we can tip the scales a little more though. There's a balance to be found between Sonic 2 and Super Mario Bros. I think you can still do all of that while going all in on the Sonic universe. But for now, Sonic 2 is a great, if a little uneven movie and adaptation. Perhaps the next installment will continue moving in this great new direction. What do you have for us next, Sonic movies? Well, this can only be good. So what do you guys think? What do you think of Sonic 2? What do you think of my video? Comment below, discuss, and as always, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below is the link to my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get your name in the credits of these videos, as well as ad-free access, downloadable videos, and more. A special shout out goes to the patrons in the $5 and above tiers. We have Silver, Josh Strider, Grant Allen, Twilord, Coco210, Hey It's Classy, Jay Sevian, Ian, Cho Henshin, KB, RT0, Calex, Hypes, Sad Goku, Dare Denny, SSS06, Kale Bennett, get your finger out of my pocket! I can tell you've watched this Salty DK Dan video then. Ken K, Mr. SP, Cyrus the Skeptic, Biotin. Did you know this entire video was AI generated? No, it... Please change your name, Adzinko, I can't take much more of this. And Vera Wild, thank you good folks so much for your generosity, and to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Now get out of my quills.